Hello
Hello
there.
everyone.
Welcome back to another episode. This is episode 88 of Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob.
And today we have a truly special episode. We watched this last week. We watched the middle three episodes, like those episodes right smack dab in the middle of The Bad Batch Season 1. I'm talking about Battle Scars. I'm talking about Reunion, and I'm talking about Bounty Lost. Those three episodes. But we are not talking about this alone. With us, and I'm so glad to have them with us, are Keith and Kerwin from Father Son Galaxy. I remember going to both of your panel at Celebration. It was fantastic. I loved being there and seeing the energy, and I remember you both talking about how much you love the Bad Batch, and I said to myself, there's an episode right there. We gotta get them on. And here we are. This is what, 5-6 months later, and we're doing this thing. So how are you both doing today?
Oh, we're doing great. All right. Thank you for having us. This is
we're real excited.
yeah, we can't wait to talk. We can talk about the Bad Batch any time of the day. So
And
we're
for
just thank
years,
you.
so we
Yeah.
hope you've got your meals next to you, because we will chat until dinner time tomorrow.
We don't want to take up too much of your time, gentlemen.
I got
Thank you for the invitation.
I got my water, but before before we get into talking about the Bad Batch, let's first we like to ask all of our guests about how they got into Star Wars. So both of you, whichever order you want, go ahead. How did you get into Star Wars? How did you get into your show and making your show and all that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I was in my dad.
That's all right. Would you like to go first? Or would you like me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. All right.
So I was introduced to Star Wars.
We are silly.
By my dad.
Yes.
Through the Golden Books.
Little
right?
Golden Books.
Because he went to Barnes and Noble, which I love, and he was like, "Oh, I see. There are books here, and they're about Star Wars. Maybe I should get them for Keith." And then came home with the books, and I read them, loved them. And then I'm like, "When do we watch the movie?" And I had to go to Best Buy because we didn't have a Blu-ray player because the old one broke.
You don't want, yeah.
And then we went to Best Buy and we bought it, and I'm like, woohoo! Now we can watch A New Hope. And I enjoyed it, and I'm like, let's watch The Empire Strikes Back. And then we watched all the movies. By the way, I was about 4 when this happened.
Yeah.
And
wow,
all the movies, and at the end, I'm like, yay!
Yeah.
And then The Force Awakens came out, and I got to watch it with my dad. And that was my introduction to Star Wars, the fast version.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So my introduction was back when I was 10 years old, actually, 12 years old, actually. The first film I saw was The Empire Strikes Back. Didn't have much of a memory of it, but I did have a memory of Return of the Jedi.
Of course you did.
And yeah, I love talking about, that experience because I went with two of my best buddies from Brooklyn, grew up in Brooklyn, and we went to a movie theater in Manhattan, and we saw it opening weekend, and it was just tremendous. There was a long line of people. We had to wait online for about a few hours, but when we finally got into the theater, and we went to one of the best theaters in Manhattan. We wanted to go where the screen was a huge screen. Low Astor Plaza, no longer there.
Dolby
surround sound. Yeah, so
I've heard this a billion times.
Yes, you have. So we want to make sure that we got the best movie experience, and it was fantastic, and we had a wonderful time. So it started there, and many years, even after they stopped. After the original trilogy, there wasn't a lot going on with Star Wars.
Just the books.
Yeah, until the prequel trilogy. But outside of my two best friends from Brooklyn, I didn't really have anybody else to talk Star Wars about. So really, it wasn't until Keith came along that I found, my buddy, that we could talk Star Wars. And Keith actually knows a lot more than I do because he has so much material. He's got the Clone Wars.
The Padawan has become the master.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but so he's got the Clone Wars, he got Star Wars Rebels, he got the sequel trilogy.
Resistance.
So exactly. There's so much more Star Wars now. So I'm enjoying it now more than I did when I was 12 years old.
Yeah, I love a lot of that. First of all, I just want to ask one thing, Keith, just to clarify. Your first Star Wars movie was The Force Awakens, like in theaters, right?
No, it was A New Hope. at home.
Yeah, he saw
And
it at
then I
home.
saw the first Force Awakens.
Yeah,
Oh,
all
so-
of the movies. Yeah, you saw The Force Awakens at home, but you did see The Last Jedi in the theaters. That was your first
Okay.
experience.
I was gonna say because my first and I think Jacob, you too, if I'm not incorrect about this, our first both of our first Star Wars movies in the theaters was Force Awakens, and I mostly like. And I'm not like dissing this at all, but I like most of the stories we've heard are like yours, Kerwin, where it's just about like, oh, I saw New Hope in the theater or Phantom Menace in the theater, and it's so crazy to me at least to hear somebody who's like, no, the first one I saw in the theaters was The Last Jedi. Like that is like we have been to every single of the Disney Star Wars releases together, Jacob and I. Luckily, it was right before the, of course, Rides was right before the pandemic hit because we couldn't have done that afterwards. But it's so weird to hear like the new generation of Star Wars fans really like, as if I'm not a part of it again. Like I'm talking as if that doesn't include me. But yeah, Jacob, anything else before we get to our next question?
If I can make a very clunky Bad Batch reference, Keith, you're making me feel like a Gen 1 clone here. Starting to feel like I'm not quite the newest off the line anymore.
I've already started feeling that with I don't know if either of you know it's the Bombad cast, but one of them is a teacher and his students often come on the live stream and every week, and they always make me feel exceedingly old, even though I'm the youngin of that group just generally. So it's definitely interesting to see how different people of all ages perceive the saga. But how did Father Son Galaxy start?
Well, it's a simple answer to that, my mom. So, what happened was, this was in 2020, pandemic had just hit, and Mandalorian season 2 was there to comfort us. Oh, was it season 1? That was 2019.
Season 1, yeah.
2020 season 1, I think.
Yeah.
And, we would watch it, and after every episode, we'd sit down at the dinner table and we would talk about it. And my mom, she's just there, just like, smile!
Recording us as we're talking at the dinner table about the Mandalorian
and we
episode.
had no knowledge of this. And then this got uploaded to Facebook. And then by the time we knew about it, it was already too late. And then mom was like, you should start a podcast. And we're like, no. And then, like, a couple of weeks later, me and Dad and Maceo, we come home, and all of a sudden, we
have all the equipment already set up. Tanya bought all the equipment, everything, the microphones, the camera, and she set everything up on her own. And we came home, and
and Mom's just like, you're doing a podcast.
So that's it. That's how it started. So our first episode was back in March of 2021. So we're approaching 2 years now. Yeah. So it's been a lot of fun. It's still fun.
Absolutely. And I also identify with that because we are also a pandemic podcast too. And we actually technically started a little bit before the pandemic, but nobody listened to us before the pandemic. And like we didn't really hit our stride until like just a little earlier than both of you. I think it was like summer 2020, fall 2020. That sort of era, but I think it did a lot for podcasts and everybody I've talked to who started a podcast either then or even before then talks about how the pandemic, because everybody was at home, because everybody was had so much more free time, like how it like really changed the scene of Star Wars podcasts forever, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it became a great way for people to find alternative ways for people to connect with one another. And I hope that that's something that is going to be really enduring in this scene long after COVID finally goes by the wayside. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Fingers crossed.
Because I found a lot of amazing connections, and I love your guys' story. That's amazing because we had a similar because Eli came to me one day, we've been friends long before, and he kind of said to me, Jacob, we talk so much about Star Wars, why don't we try out a podcast? And I think what made it work and what made it fun is that it's just a natural continuation of the passion, and that's what I see in you guys as well, is it's a natural continuation of this amazing multi-generational passion that so many people can engage in and to share with one another and come together over.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's I guess the pandemic just allowed us, well, I can only speak for myself, but it allowed me to rethink what's most important to me now, besides my family. What are some of the things that I want to do now that makes me happy? And it has always been Star Wars for me. And it's just as satisfying to know that I passed my love of Star Wars down to my son, and that's something that we enjoy doing. It's a family bonding time, and with I have a younger son. His name is Maceo, and we do story time with him. So
yeah, we'll have him on the podcast occasionally. Right now, we're reading the Golden Books.
Yeah, so we're reading the same Golden Books that Keith read. We're reading them to Maceo as well. So it really is family bonding, and I'm just so glad that that we have this opportunity to even have a voice and to talk to other people about Star Wars, and to just share our love for it, with not just for us, but with other people out there, and we all have the same story and situation. But the pandemic really changed a lot of lives, changed how we think and what we need for ourselves, and what's best for us.
Very well said. I could not agree more. I think, the podcast for me, I think it just showed me truly how much is out there in terms of the connections that we can make. And when we went to Celebration, my heart was just full. I was just beaming ear to ear the whole time, seeing so many people. I just remember this one moment with I think it was Brian from the Pink Milk podcast.
Yeah.
If you guys know, they're wonderful. They do some wonderful stuff over there. I saw him. I just went, Jacob, and he came up to me and gave me a big bear hug, and I was like, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into? Like, meeting all these people, it was, oh my gosh, it's just such an amazing thing. And yeah, I'm so glad that we're still able to move it forward and to spread the love. I'm really happy that we're here.
Yes.
So do we want to get into these incredible Bad Batch episodes? Because these are some weighty episodes we got right here. Battle Scars is like, holy cow, that it is. I knew we were getting into these episodes soon, and I was thinking to myself, oh, I'm gonna have so much to say about this, and absolutely, I'm sure all of us do. Where do we want to start with Battle Scars? Because they're going to Bracca. They're going to it's so weird earlier in the timeline seeing Bracca, because we know we're going to get to it in Jedi Fallen Order. They're going to Bracca. They're going to remove the Batch's chips. The inhibitor chips have become have caused too many problems for them, and I'm gonna leave the field open if anyone wants to share their thoughts first.
Sure. Yeah.
Do
you want to go?
No, you go.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think this was a really good episode. I'm glad we got to finally have their inhibitor chips removed, because that was just nagging me.
Yeah.
Especially Wreckers.
Yeah, with the headaches. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Like the entire show, Wrecker, my man, Wrecker, he suffers so much.
Yeah, it's we were talking a few episodes ago. I think this was with the end of replacements, where the inhibitor chip was just starting to come up, and Jacob and I were joking at the end. We were like, Wrecker has a headache. That means nothing. I'm sure that's nothing. I'm sure that's not going to come up in any way in the season. And it's that creeping build of when are these, we talk a lot so far with the Bad Batch about the ideas of like the same and like the sameness, and then the individuality of like, when are these free thinking individual clones going to turn into those automatons, those like robots, the very droids they've been fighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I like Keith. I was concerned about Wrecker. We know,
Yeah.
okay, well, where is this going to go? Like, is he going to snap at any moment? Is he
What's
going
he
to
gonna
start
say?
repeating "Good soldiers follow orders" and try to go after his teammates? We didn't know.
Yeah,
So
like
we
at
did,
any given moment,
yeah,
Record could have just been like, oh, and
exactly
then
right.
like
But we knew
the
at some
season would have
point,
come to an early end.
yeah, at some point we had to have the chips removed, right?
Yeah.
And then we also knew that we were going to see Rex appear. So this,
Trailer,
sorry,
trailer.
yeah, right, okay, yeah, we didn't know exactly when he was going to appear, but this makes sense that he would be the one to show them
How to
what to
remove
do,
their
how to get them
inhibitors.
removed, where you have to go to get them
Because he had
removed. So
his in removed.
exactly,
Yeah, and it's an interesting gambit they go to try and go to one of those downed Jedi cruisers on Bracca, and this is a weird show for me because this is like I think the first thing we've covered on In a Galaxy that I remember like doing the show when it came out. Like I wasn't alive when the Phantom Menace came out. I wasn't doing the show when the Clone Wars originally started to come out. This is like, but I remember thinking, oh, I remember at the time thinking, oh, they're gonna wait till the end of the season to do this inhibitor chip thing. They're gonna have it build tension throughout the entire season, and then they're gonna trigger it at the end. And then Rex shows up, and they're like, okay, we're going to Bracca and remove the chips. I'm like, already? Wow, gutsy.
yeah, it's like the elephant in the room, right? So they have to address it
Yeah,
at
like
some point.
you know it's coming. You just don't know when. It's like a ticking time bomb. You have no clue when it's going to go off.
Yeah, so rather than stretch it out to the end of the season, I think they figured, okay,
Yeah, that would
well,
have just been too
let's just address
risky.
it, let's get it out the way, and then we can move on to their next adventure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I like.
Yeah, go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No.
I like the placement of when they decided to do it. I think had it gone on longer, we would have gone to a point of we just do it already. But I think it came at a good moment because the first part of the season, I think, is very much, or what I kind of noticed the most in this rewatch is seeing Omega and seeing her journey from an outsider to becoming part of the batch. And we could talk all day about what this means for Hunter specifically as he kind of becomes her space dad, and there's a lot in this episode about that, and him dealing with that. But I think also seeing Omega's response to it and seeing how even as Hunter, or even as Wrecker, sorry, under the influence of the chip, even as Wrecker is trying to kill her at that last moment, she says, "No, I'm your friend. Don't do this." And she doesn't try to shoot him. And then seeing how she is able to still forgive him and understand. Obviously, she understands about the inhibitor chips. I think it's a great way to kind of show where Omega now stands as part of the family that we've kind of created in the show.
They build those stakes with the whole it's about the I love that scene in the beginning where they share the Mantelmix, because it really sets them up.
Yeah.
Wrecker is that I feel like he's that uncle figure. He's the fun uncle figure, but he genuinely cares for this kid, and I feel like it's put in there to show us exactly how much the inhibitor chip can do, and especially if jumping a little bit ahead to Reunion. There's that scene that I'm finding it more and more interesting as time goes on with when they're cornered on the Jedi cruiser by Crosshair and his troops, and Hunter goes to Crosshair. Crosshair, don't do this. You're not thinking clearly. What are you doing? And then Crosshair's like, you know what? I'm not gonna shoot at you guys. That would be too nice. Aim for the girl. Where it's one of those things where if he was aim at the whole squad, I would get that because he's against them. But no, he chose the extra cruelty of aim for that young girl.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where it's I feel like it's not. I feel like the inhibitor chip isn't just the bad option; it's the cruel option.
Right. Very good point. Right. Yeah. He went for the heart, actually. He knows Hunter, how much Hunter and the rest of the team feel about
Omega.
Omega. And so, of course, you're going to, you want to, when you want to hurt someone, you go after someone that's something personal or someone personal. So that's exactly what he did, and
or tried to do.
Right. That's right.
Still alive.
Right. And, when we get to episode 8, as to what happened and when Omega gets captured, we know that, Hunter's going to go after her, of course, that's obvious, because they have this connection with Omega, all of them does. And going back to what you're talking about with their relationship, Wrecker and Omega's relationship, yes, they did set that up perfectly, because we know that, Wrecker would never want to hurt Omega, but if you're under the influence of the inhibitor chip, you don't know what's going to happen. So I think that's what made it so thrilling and compelling. Like, okay, well, is he really going to hurt her? I know he doesn't know what he's doing or what's happening, but is he going to hurt her? And apparently that's not what happened. So we're glad that, what took place ended up differently than what we expected. It could have been worse.
Imagine if they left us there.
Yeah.
Imagine if they just closed in on that shot and that was how the episode ended.
Right. Yeah.
That would be a crazy ending. Wow.
It would be. And there's that line from Wrecker talking about that Order 66 breakdown when they're trying to remove the chip. There's like when he first starts getting it, when the chip starts really activating him, he goes, "You are in direct violation of Order 66," and it doesn't sound like him. It has the exact tone of his voice, but it doesn't sound like him. And it is this. It shows how this inhibitor chip is just like, it removes all senses of personality. It removes all senses of individuality in these clones. They're, like we were talking about a few episodes ago, they're assets to be moved around. They're not people.
Yeah. To go back.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. To go back to what you were saying, Kerwin, I think part of what makes it so compelling, as you were saying with Wrecker, is that when the inhibitor chip goes off for Crosshair, he is already not the nicest guy. He's a little cold. He's a little mean, but then we see this. So when we see someone as goofy and lovable and kind as Wrecker, and we see him get completely transformed, we see him go from the Wrecker we know to, like really, really scary. Like, I'm on the edge of my seat when he's closing in on Omega. I think that really drives home the point and how as to what Rex was saying, how dangerous the chip can really be.
That's right. Exactly.
I have a question for all of you, and this is one of the great things I feel like about covering a show like The Bad Batch at this point, because we almost has never done, I think it's the first time we've done content that we know is not finished yet. We've done Star Wars that we know is not done yet, and this is a question that's never really answered in the episode, so I wanted to throw it to the floor, and I actually said in my notes, I'm like, I'm interested to see what Jacob and Keith and Kerwin were going to think about this, and that's, Rex gives that speech to Hunter at the end of the episode in the Moonlight about, there are other people out there who believe in the Republic, and we know that the Rebellion is a pretty late development in the Empire era. Like, we are just now seeing the very, very roots of it in Obi-Wan Kenobi and Andor. I want to know who everybody thinks Rex is talking about, because he's clearly talking about somebody. And all of the answers I was thinking about were, like, drawing blanks, because I don't think, I don't think he knows Bail Organa that well. Like, I don't think, like, as we already see in Season 1 of Andor, Mon Mothma's not absolutely 100% down with the Rebellion at that point. Like, he doesn't think Obi-Wan's alive.
Yeah, that's a very
Ahsoka.
Yeah, that's a very right. Yeah, that's a very good point.
He knows Ahsoka's alive.
That's
right. True. Now, before Andor, and the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, yes, you're right. I actually thought the Rebellion started to form a long time ago, further than what it is. So I was actually thinking what you were thinking. I was thinking he was talking about Bail Organa. He was talking about Mon Mothma
No.
and Ahsoka. But yeah, I don't know. Other than outside of Ahsoka, I don't know who else there could be
Yeah, and it's
at that
made.
point.
It's also
Yeah.
made complicated by the fact that we know from Rebels that I'm not sure if we know this, but I feel like the implication was made in that season 2 episode where Ahsoka reunites with Rex that they hadn't seen each other since the Clone Wars.
Mm.
So like, my brain was like going all over the place. I was like, could it be Hondo? Could he be talking about Hondo? I'm like, look, that sounds crazy, but do we have any other better options?
Yeah.
At this point.
No.
That's a very good point. Yeah. I don't know if that was intentional or maybe the timeline is a little bit off.
Or maybe they just wanted to like name drop and get people thinking.
Right.
I mean, they did that clearly.
Yeah, no, they got people thinking with this. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's interesting because like again, at the time when the series ended for the Bad Batch, we didn't have Obi-Wan, we didn't have Andor, but I was thinking season 2 would take place with the Batch joining Rex with the rest of the rebellion or whoever they are. So I don't know what's going to happen now in season 2 if the rebellion is not really quite there. What else is
5 BBY.
right?
That's when the rebellion.
So who is Rex working with? We don't know. That's a good question.
And
maybe some.
Go ahead, Keith. Yeah,
People,
some people
that we may not know. Okay.
Yeah, maybe we'll get some new characters, or maybe it's Tala. I don't know if you thought about that.
Tell us who Tala is. I'm not sure.
Remember from Obi-Wan?
Yeah, Tala the.
Oh,
That's a really good point, Keith. That's a really good point.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Right. They were,
yeah.
posing as the Empire, but they were actually working for the rebellion.
At this
Good point. Yeah.
Rebel Cell still exists.
True.
Yeah.
But,
and I was thinking actually. Wait, I was thinking about Tala for a second, and I'm like, wait, wasn't she? I think she might already be part of the Empire this time. Like, I think she might be legit part of the Empire this time. Because she was talking about the whole thing with the Inquisitors and how they were like, and how she was leading she was the stormtrooper, right? I was like, was Roken the stormtrooper or was she the stormtrooper? No, it was her that was the stormtrooper.
She was an Imperial officer.
She was an Imperial officer. She was pretending. I thought she was actually pretending to be an Imperial officer, but all this time she was working for the rebels. But it could have been that she was, like you said, working for the Imperials and then decided at some point that she was going to turn.
Well, she says that in the show. She says like there were those Inquisitors who were hunting down Force sensitives, and then I was like, I was watching them kidnap this child from their family, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. No, it's really interesting because all of the answers we have lead to more questions. They're like, and I feel like we have all of the people who like we know have those rebel tendencies. We've already seen them, like Cham and the Syndulla family later in the season, like Caleb who Hunter lets go. It's a really interesting question, and I think I actually definitely can see. I wonder if they might like put characters from newer shows in the Bad Batch now. Like, I wonder if Roken could be in the Bad Batch. That's the first one that comes to mind.
I got a theory for y'all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you thought about this, but maybe Rex was talking to Cham or about Cham.
So it could have been Cham.
That is a good, because that's actually a really good theory.
Right?
Yeah, Rex could be talking to Cham. Yeah, that's true.
We know Cham was already active. We know Rex had a little bit of interaction.
Yeah, they've met
with Cham. Yeah, that is.
Actually, I just thought of another one.
It actually could be Cham. Yeah,
it could be Cham, and I thought of another revolutionary figure like Cham that we've already seen in this season, which is Saw. I wonder if Rex was talking about Saw.
Well, Guerrero.
Yeah.
Guerrero's a little far out for Rex to be working with. He's extreme.
He is extreme, and I do believe that, but like it's one of those things where maybe Rex just does believe at that point that much drastic action is needed to bring back the Republic. I mean, Jacob and I were talking about this earlier, and I totally believe that like this is an era that we have not really explored that much. You know, we talk about people have talked so much about like, oh, we've been over exploring the 19 years between Sith and A New Hope, and I'm like, no, we've been very heavily exploring the 9 years between like Solo, Obi-Wan Kenobi territory and A New Hope. But the first 9-10 years of the Empire, we have Bad Batch, we have Fallen Order, we have the Darth Vader comic, and that's it. So we're in a lot of uncharted territory here. So it really could be anything.
They have a lot of room to work with. There's a lot of directions. There's a lot of directions that they could go. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of left and right turns people can make here.
Yeah, and I remember there was this one figure in Legends. I don't even remember the name, but like there was like I remember there was like a history sort of like text about it, and there was like, you know, this guy was seen as an early figure of the rebellion, but he against the Empire, but he disappeared. And I definitely could see like failed rebellions popping up, and I wonder if that could be an option. If there are like people who try to resist against the Empire but don't have enough people or ammo or money or all that kind of stuff.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. Oof. But anything else? I want to pass it over to anyone else about battle scars before we go to reunion.
Well, you know, yeah, before we do, I just want to mention that I recall throughout the season that there were scenes in the episodes that always, to me, referred to something else I've already seen. For example, another movie. So in this one, we were talking about Wrecker and how his inhibitor chip activated and he started chasing after Omega. It reminded me of the Terminator.
You know what?
Yeah.
You
So
said
I
that
know.
when we did the
Yes,
episode.
right. Yeah. So I don't know if that's intentional or maybe that's just me because I've just seen these movies. But I always feel like they have a recall. Yeah, there's some kind of recollection to something I've already seen. So, and the same thing happens in episode 8 when we talk about the next episode as well. There's something that takes place that reminds me of a movie that I've seen. So, yes. So that was it.
No, it's interesting, and Star Wars does have a lot of those influences, I know. And I was actually thinking, I wonder if this was what you're talking about, because there was an introduction of a certain character next episode that felt very Western to me.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
And that is actually so. We'll get to that when we get to that. That is probably my and I really don't like that character normally. But that is my favorite scene from this season, honestly. It is I don't think it's really even particularly close. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Jacob, Keith, anything else for Battle Scars?
I think that when I was thinking about this episode in preparation, I thought the name Battle Scars is very apt. You know, as my favorite character, Kanan Jarrus, says, battles leave scars, some you can't see. And I really enjoyed in this episode how they kind of brought back some of the fear and the confusion of Order 66. And I liked how we get to see the clones dealing with their sadness and dealing with their grief. I also really liked that they went to Bracca. I think the setting was very apt, that we have this symbol of the Republic that we see so much in the Clone Wars, the Jedi Cruiser, the Venator. All of a sudden it's rusting, it's falling apart.
Gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Just like the Republic. They're living in this in between where they're still serving the past that no longer exists. So I'm very interested to see how it plays out going forwards based on that.
I was also going to say, and I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. This is a weird coincidence that a friend of the show, Connor from the Nerd Academy podcast and For the Republic, he and I were talking about this the other day, and we noticed something which is really weird, that Jedi Fallen Order obviously starts on Bracca, And Battle Scars obviously also takes place on Bracca. And we have also learned that before the release of Jedi Survivor, or around the release of Jedi Survivor, there's a companion book being released by Sam Maggs, and the title of the book is Jedi Battle Scars, which is a really strange coincidence if it's a coincidence, and I'm starting to believe it isn't. And I wonder if maybe in the book, because we know it's taking place in between Fallen Order and Survivor, I wonder maybe if we could see the Bad Batch in Jedi Battle Scars.
That'll be
Like,
awesome.
it absolutely like tinfoil hat theory, but it just made me wonder. But if we're ready, should we go on to Reunion?
Sure.
Yes.
Oh my
do this.
god, Reunion is so. I'll just establish this. Reunion's my favorite episode this season. It just hits the spot. It just does it. I don't know, and this is just a overall thing for season 1 music. I don't know what they asked Kevin Kiner to do with this season's music, but it is the most edgy, epic, like dark synth. Like, I don't know what they asked him to do, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Like, the music fit every scene and every mood in the episode. Like, there wasn't a single scene that had music that didn't fit. Like when Crosshair is in there and he's about to shoot up the Bad Batch, the music was perfect there. And when they're inside the engine, Crosshair's firing it up, that music was also perfect. Like, Kevin Kiner, perfect scoring for the entire show.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
I could not agree more, Keith. I could not agree more. I love the music here.
Yeah, the Bad Batch has some really, really fascinating, and like I feel like we should just get to this. The Western music when Cad Bane shows up, because I feel like we are going to get to this eventually. I remember watching that episode. I'm like the first half, I was like, oh, this is really good. And then we see there's that incredible pan up shot from the clone helmet on the ground and the clone's dead. And we pan up to see him the clone lying on the floor. And I'm like, uh-oh, who killed him? Who killed him? And then Hunter and Omega basically copy that and they go, oh, no, who killed these people? And then it pans over. And for the first time in 9 years, we see Cad Bane again. 9 years.
Almost a decade now.
Almost a decade since we saw Cad Bane for the last time. And, you know, most of us who were into the, like, Clone Wars Unfinished designs thought he was dead. And it is... We've gone through with the Bad Batch and now the Book of Boba Fett. I feel like we have gone through a Cad Bane-issance. Is the only way to say it.
Yeah,
like that.
and it's the way they brought him back so naturally. It's the way they brought back Toto 360 along with him so naturally.
I love Toto.
Toto 360 is fantastic. And my favorite part is that they brought Cad Bane's new ship into it, which he was given for the Unfinished arc with Boba Fett in the Clone Wars, called the Justifier. And I even though his old ship sorry, what was that, Keith?
It's a Lego set.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
I saw it. Yeah, it looks very nice.
Yeah, even though I like the Xanadu Blood, which was his old ship, very much, the Justifier just looks cool. And it's so interesting to have Bane back into the mix, basically being his old Cad Bane self. It's one of those things where Cad Bane doesn't really have an arc as a character, and you don't really need him to, because he's Cad Bane. He can do whatever he wants. I also just love that the last part of me rambling about Cad Bane, which is I love that he brings back his old catchphrases. I love that he says Cad Bane at your service to Hunter, and I love that
he says it to Omega too. He says it twice. Or maybe that's in the next episode, but
I forget.
He doesn't miss an opportunity.
Yeah, he does not miss an opportunity. And the other one, I love how he calls Omega little lady, because he does that to every woman in the Clone Wars, and I find that hilarious.
Yeah, he's very polite. Yeah,
he did that to Ahsoka.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how many times you've heard Star Wars described as, well, depending on, the character you're speaking about, it's described as a Western,
Yeah.
because, you have a lot of these quick draw people with blasters. There's
Mhm.
always that showdown, or they're staring down each other from the very beginning. And with Han Solo and Greedo at the cantina, to me that's something out of a Western film. So it just makes sense. It just fits right into Star Wars. Cad Bane, and you're right. He doesn't need to be a major star. He just comes in with a cameo, and you hear that guitar solo, and his presence is felt. So yeah.
Absolutely, and that's actually another thing I love about the Bane-issance, specifically this era of Cad Bane, is that when we were first introduced to Cad Bane in the Clone Wars, he was often facing off against people like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin and all those high level upper echelon Jedi. Now they're all gone, and again, when he was facing off of them against them, he was like, "Oh no, this guy's a big threat, but we can sort of take care of him." Now there's no Jedi around. And this guy is not a major threat anymore. He is a death wish. Like, if you want to avoid dying in the face of him, you got to be really, really careful. Um,
And also draw really quick.
yeah, you also have to draw really quick, which I think that I'm trying to think. Hunter doesn't. I'm trying to remember now. In the Name of Honor, does Boba? I don't think Boba does. I think Cad draws before Boba. I know Cad draws before Cobb Vanth.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
unfortunately,
both of us had to draw quick.
Yeah.
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 Oh, absolutely.
Don't they? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Finish what you. Okay. Okay. I think they give a nod to the unfinished arc as well, because we see him. He has
The plate.
the metal plate on his head, which I think is their way of telling us the unfinished arc. Look, it happened, but you're not getting it.
Yeah, it's so weird. I was gonna discuss that too, and I'd love to know if you guys how much you guys know about that arc. It's just so weird because they reference it in book 2. They reference that there's that I'm not a little boy anymore that Boba says to Cad Bane, and it's weird that they're referencing something that doesn't exist, that like never got released as a story. It's such a strange conundrum there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had no idea this unfinished art even existed.
Yeah.
I think we have to read it now.
It's not, unfortunately. I think it's available on Wikipedia. Like Wikipedia has some details of it, but I don't think it's like actually available anywhere. We know very little about it. We know that Cad Bane was rivals with Django before his death. And that he never got to see who, and he was as big as, apparently Cad Bane was a big Star Wars fan, so he wanted to know who would win in a fight, Cad Bane or Jango Fett, but he never got to see before Jango died, and so he's like, I'll just train Boba, and we'll see who would win in a fight, me or Jango, and they had this duel. Also, all this takes place on Tatooine, because of course it does. And Cad Bane got shot in the head, which is why that we were talking. Jacob was talking about the plate, why the plate's there.
Yeah.
And then I think this was at a different celebration. I think this was like a few years ago at Celebration. I remember seeing this clip of. I wasn't there. I remember like the playback of it though on YouTube or something like that. But it was. They both drew at the same time, and they both landed a shot against each other. And Boba's shot landed on his helmet, which is the explanation for that dent he has in the original trilogy.
Wow.
And
Cool connection.
It is, and all of it's gone now. It's so weird that they just sweep it under the rug like that.
Yeah, but it sounds like a great story though to know about. Yeah, but yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we need to look into that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And can we shout out Corey Burton, the voice?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's just fantastic. I know he
voices
voices
even
in live action. It's just there's something about his voice. He's just very intimidating.
Oh, absolutely. I remember the first time, and this was this was originated by Tamora Morrison in The Mandalorian. But I remember when Corey Burton said it in the Book of Boba Fett, is that great quote: "If that isn't the character calling the stifling slimy. I'm like, perfect delivery, no notes, wouldn't change a thing.
That was wonderful.
It's fantastic. I'll bring up something else that I think has not been noticed enough in the Disney Star Wars era about specifically the TV, which is that the Star Wars action sequence with like the new Disney Lucasfilm TV has gone like off the walls. We've gotten some of the greatest Star Wars action I think ever in Star Wars TV. I'm thinking of the one I'm thinking of in this episode is the Ion engine. Like if you had told me that a bunch of clones were going to try and hide from the Empire in the engine of a Star Destroyer, like that's ridiculous, and it works so well. I'm also thinking like the escape from the Eye in the escape from the end of the heist. The escape from on Aldhani in Andor. I'm thinking of the Mudhorn in the second episode of The Mandalorian. I'm thinking of the first episode of Book of Boba Fett, where Boba is almost killed by the Order of the Nightwind. Like, what have they done with these action sequences? Because they just keep getting better and better.
Yeah, the train sequence in episode 2 of Boba Fett. With the
remember that they were just like knocking people out the windows.
That was just amazing. That was really good.
And I don't think it's I don't know who they're getting to do these stunts, but it's just fantastic, all the way through. The one show I'm trying to think of like a good action sequence in Obi-Wan. Because that's the one show I didn't mention, but I'm like, Obi-Wan is good as it is, and again, it's my favorite Star Wars TV show of all time, probably. Maybe Clone Wars, but probably Obi-Wan. It's not about that. It's not about the action sequence. It's about the heart of the characters and stuff like that. But that's something else I wanted to. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I have for this episode with the Ion Cannon. I guess I'll bring the one thing up and then I'll pass it on to all of you. There's that conversation that Tech and Omega have before all this happens on the deck of the Star Destroyer. Tech, what was the war like? And Tech gives that very matter-of-fact answer. It was a series of mission objectives and a battle and blah blah blah. And she goes, no, but what was it like? And it was a really interesting conversation because even though she was alive for all of it, Omega really never saw it. It's really interesting. Open it up to all of you, Jacob, Keith, Kerwin.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, guess how old Omega is?
I forget exact. 10, 11? It's
10. Correct.
10. Okay. Yeah, because I know it's one of those two.
In regards to
just vibing.
In regards to that conversation, I thought it was very interesting because Tech is very he's straightforward. He's almost like a computer. Like he'll give you, you ask him a question, he'll give you a textbook type of encyclopedia answer, but he doesn't go into anything that relates to feelings. So when she says, well, what was it like? To me, it's okay. What was your experience? Personally, what did you experience in the war? And he couldn't do that because he's just not that type of person. It's interesting that she would ask Tech that question, right?
Like,
knowing
Wrecker, could ask Hunter, could even ask Echo for all I care.
Yeah, so
she went to Tech, the one person who's going to give her a robotic answer.
Right. So I find it interesting that she asked that question to Tech, who is the least personal of
what
all.
answer was she expecting? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the most pragmatic of the team.
Actually, to your point, Keith, I was thinking like Echo might be a really interesting point of view because he was that regular soldier until he went boom at the Citadel, and then they rescued him from Skako Minor all those years later. I wrote at the end of my notes just Is Reunion the best episode of Bad Batch season 1? Yes, it is. That's all I. I'm like, there's no denying it. But does everyone want to get to Bounty Lost?
Yeah, and again, like just
it.
to wrap up episode 8, as I was saying, that there's always to me a recollection to a previous movie. Here again, we talked about a Western. So the showdown with Cad Bane and Hunter came right out of a Sergio Leone movie called Once Upon a Time in the West, down to the music. I mean, Kevin Kiner, he's just so talented. But I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but I highly recommend it. But when you see the finale, we'll see. Well, maybe. It's not too bad, but it's still violent. But if you ever see that showdown, the finale, I mean, that's where it just came from. The music, the Ennio Morricone, who's the composer at the time, the music, Kevin Kiner actually followed through on that, and it was just incredible. I loved it. So that was my I can't say that it's my favorite episode, but that was my favorite part of this episode.
I enjoyed the episode. I think it is my favorite.
Yeah, okay. It's one of those things where, again, they're like, and I said earlier that there is no competition, and that's not true. Like, there are 6 of these that I'm like, these all could be number 1. Yeah. Reunion could definitely be that. Battle Scars on some days could be that, but also Bounty Lost, the next one, 9, could absolutely be that because of the absolutely weird and wacky places it goes.
Yes.
Are the both of you ready to talk about some Bounty Lost?
Yes, we are.
Well, that is... this episode is so crazy. One of the things I want to talk about, and Jacob and I both, we don't release a video of this, so only Keith and Kerwin were able to see this, but Jacob and I both had backgrounds of the planet of Bora Vio.
Yes.
This planet is so incredibly fascinating to me because there's so much we do not know about it. No one really, I don't think the name Bora Vio is ever spoken in the episode. Like,
it was.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, I remember him. I wrote it down in my notes. Yeah, so yeah, I believe it did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then I guess it was later on in the episode. I was just looking. I was expecting there was like to be like a approaching Bora Vio, and there wasn't. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't exist, but no, it does. I just missed it, but there's no context for it. It's just we're going to Bora Vio,
right?
And Taun We is going to be there to pick Omega up, and there's that one point in the scene, probably the best clue of what we have that's going on there, where Omega breaks the glass of the tank. And there's that alien that falls onto Fennec. Yeah.
Right.
Nasty thing.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Again, it's one of those things where I don't know what that is. I don't know if I don't know if either of you have seen this or not, but it reminded me of like the alien looked weirdly similar to the species of alien from Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Ooh,
never seen it.
Yeah. Okay.
It's whatever. I'm not. There are some.
Going there.
There are some people in our circle who love that movie.
Yeah.
I wish I could say I was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, ow!
Understood.
No, I know that friend of our show and friend of your show, Alden Diaz, is absolutely cursing me out in the background because I know he loves that movie.
Yeah.
But it's so, and actually this was a conversation that Jacob and I were having, so I'll put it to both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this has to do with Palpatine and Exegol?
I didn't really give it that much thought. When I saw it, to me, it just looked like, okay, let me say this. But when I saw it, to me, it looked like a Kaminoan.
It did.
Yeah, and I thought, were they cloning themselves is the question I was asking. But why would they do that? I don't know. But it's funny that you mentioned that you think it's something that came out of an Indiana Jones film. To me, it looks like an alien out of Close Encounters, although it's, like
It's Close Encounters.
Yeah, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It came out in '77. I mean, with
What's Close Encounters?
it's a film. It's these aliens. Humans on Earth are expecting that there might be aliens existing, and then they would finally make contact. The aliens make contact with the Earthlings, and they have this connection through the music and sound,
like Mars Attacks, basically.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but when the alien, did you see Close Encounters?
I've seen part of it.
Okay, yeah. So it just reminded me of the aliens that came down the ramp and was greeting the humans. But yeah, I didn't know what it was. I to me it was just that, okay, well, that looks like a Kaminoan, and I just didn't really give it that much thought afterwards. What did you think?
Yeah, go ahead.
And you thought it was
I looked like a Kaminoan.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of thought it was related to Exegol, but it just looked like a Kaminoan.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
actually don't think it's related. That's the thing. Jacob and I were talking, and he thought it was related to Exegol, and I didn't actually. I'm not sure it's for I'm not sure what it's for. I'm not sure we'll figure out the answer. And it's one of those things where, of all of the places you could have chosen to have the epic confrontation between Cad Bane and Fennec Shand, you choose this sky planet with these weird, creepy cloning facilities. That's an interesting choice.
Yeah, an abandoned facility.
Yeah, an abandoned facility.
Mm-hmm.
Floating in the sky, just like going about its business, and then some people just come along and start cleaning the place up.
And by the way, the facility looks so much like Cloud City. The
it
backdrop.
does, like that's what I
was gonna say as well. Yeah, it reminded me of Cloud City as well.
Yeah.
I was also gonna mention this incredible detail, and this is, I remember when I saw this episode come out, and I saw Taunwee's dead body on the floor. I'm like, wow, they just killed Taunwee from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Even crazier is the fact that Taunwee in this episode is voiced by the original actress, Rena Owen, who played her in Attack of the Clones. They did not just get any regular voice actress. They tracked her down and got her to say a few lines in this episode before killing her character off.
Yeah.
That is effort right there.
That's nice. Continuity. I like that. Yeah.
It is incredible continuity, and it's fantastic. I really I really enjoy that bit of continuity there. Let's see, what else? Anything that you two have for the beginning of Bounty Lost?
Nope.
Well, I do actually. So I could talk about the brilliance of Omega. Like how she she was captured by Bane, and she tried to make some type of deal with Toto. He's trying to fix himself, and she thought, okay, well, let me see if I can offer him something that he needs in exchange for him letting me out. And that's exactly what happened. So she was very smart.
And then she kind of knocked the poor droid down.
Well, she just shut him down, but
I love that scene. That's my favorite part of that episode. One of my favorite parts of that episode is where Cad Bane's like, "Where's the girl?" and Toto's like, "She's right there." Oh no. It is that instant realization from Toto. And I remember seeing those scenes from Toto and Omega about how Cad Bane treats him. And it's one of those things where, this is a theme covered over and over again in Star Wars about, like, Omega has a team behind her. She has the Batch behind her. She has a family behind her. But the villains don't care about each other. They will work together if it means achieving the common goal, but they don't care about each other, and that's why they lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, if you band it out with like a league of villains and then want to capture somebody, that'd work. But like Crosshair, on the other hand, Crosshair is kind of terrible at his job.
Crosshair is not very good at it.
These poor people and a child managed to evade him at every turn. He comes in with 3 shuttles and like 50 clone troopers. They escape.
And they still manage to get out of there. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Crosshair ends up with 3rd-degree burns.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah. I forget actually about that topic. I think the consensus is that that's where his inhibitor chip stopped working, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in there, but
Yeah, they never really explained it clearly whether it was damaged during the fire
And they had to
or
remove it.
yeah.
Likely so.
Yeah.
Remember that weird burn thing he had, like what Wrecker had on the side of his head?
Right.
Yeah.
His head was shaved on that side.
Right. So we don't know if the chip was taken out at that point, or did he have it taken out earlier than that? We don't know.
He said he had his chip removed
a long time ago, right? But we know exactly when that is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crosshair, give us some details, man.
Yeah, that the timeline of that is really muddled and interesting in that part.
Tweedle beetle puddle paddle buttle tweedle beetle battle.
Absolutely. I'm trying to. There was something I was just looking at in my notes that I was. Oh, Ming Na Wen.
Yes.
Ming Na Wen is Fennec Shand. And I remember when we saw her in the trailers, I'm like, oh, that's cool. They're putting Ming Na Wen in the show as Fennec Shand. And I love how much it was they had Fennec Shand as a character in this show. They didn't just put Fennec Shand in the show because they could.
Yes.
They put her in for a purpose, and actually that leads me to Nala Se. What do you both think of Nala Se? Because she has some interesting intentions here. Because we know that if Omega is brought back to Kamino, and Lama Su has his way, they will retrieve whatever they need to retrieve from her, and then she's going to be terminated.
Which seems incredibly evil to do to a child.
Yes. Right.
Like these Kaminoans, they're just like
they're extremely callous. They don't seem to care a lot. They're like it's funny because I think Jacob and I were talking about this a few episodes ago, where the Kaminoans like view their clones as assets, and they don't think about them as much beyond that. And then the Empire starts using the Kaminoans as an asset, and they're like, "What? Whoa! What are you doing? Oh no! This is what we've been doing the entire time. Oh no!" But
boy,
yeah,
the tables have turned.
Yeah, the tables have turned. But there was but Nala Se doesn't want Omega dead. Why do you think that Nala Se wants Omega to be safe, and specifically, as she says at the end of the episode in a hollow call to Fennec, out of the hands of Lama Su?
She is a creepy woman and really cryptic. I don't get what Nala Se is doing.
Okay.
I know she cares about Omega, but why?
Yeah. I'm not sure, but I know it must have something to do with, obviously Omega has something or possesses something that no other
force sensitivity
that no other clone has. And it is valuable to keep her alive as long as possible. Right. And then to just terminate her. And I think she's aware of that. We've been hearing from the last episode, that how she is the pure DNA of Jango Fett. The person who has that pure DNA is Boba Fett. But clearly there's something different between Boba and Omega. Yeah. And I think that's the reason why Nala Se wants to keep her alive, because there's something there that she has. Like he says, we believe she's force sensitive. That has not come out yet. But I think that's something that is absolutely valuable to them, of keeping them alive. I can see it would make sense to me if the Emperor wanted to create a clone army of Jedi.
The Emperor in the season 2 Jedi.
Of force sensitive clones, right? I think that would make sense to me. That would be amazing, that you can have not just a clone that is a perfect target master who can fire, but someone who can also use the force. I mean, that would be pretty incredible.
Yep.
It's interesting. So I I'm not like completely sold on the force sensitivity thing. I definitely think it's a possibility, but I'm not sure like I'm not convinced that it's going to happen, but you both provide some pretty strong arguments, first of all. And second of all, I think to Palpatine in Rise and the efforts leading up to Rise, where, that's have either of you read Shadow of the Sith?
No,
I have not. Yes. No,
By the way, we actually interviewed D. Bradley Baker and Michelle Ang. I got a little bit of an answer. I was told Omega's done some growing, and now she has a helmet. So maybe we'll see some new powers.
Maybe we'll see. Who knows, right? But
And then Wrecker crashed the interview.
That's always fun. But I know there is a time jump, and I'm excited to see what that from season 1 to 2, and I'm excited to see what that does for Omega's character. I was thinking of this is kind of minor spoiler for Shadow of Sith, but not really. This is mostly all explained in The Rise of Skywalker. But the reason that Palpatine wanted Rey so bad is, of course, because her clone father, Dathan, was not force sensitive, and Palpatine needed a force sensitive body. And there's been this implication that I really like, that you can't just make force sensitivity. That Palpatine's always wanted to chase it, but he realized that force sensitivity is just like luck of the draw, genetics. You can't manipulate that, or at least he can't find a way to manipulate that. But that's just my opinion, and who knows, Omega could turn out to be force sensitive. And again, there's one of those things like, how did she manage to shoot Crosshair's blaster out of his hand?
Exactly.
That first episode.
Good point.
Like, if she has pure unaltered DNA, like the other clone troopers were altered and had their growth advanced, so that
she said she never fired a blaster before. That's a little strange.
Exactly, because like they didn't need to be trained as much. Like they could just pick up a blaster from day one and be like, "Ooh, great aim." Whereas Omega, she didn't go through that kind of training. She was just like always working in the lab and never really had the time or was allowed to. So she picked up that blaster and fired it, and I'm like, hold on.
That's pretty good.
How did she do that if she's had no training? Like the rest of the batch, they were trained for this stuff. And then Omega just fires a blaster, heads turn, and I'm like,
yeah, it makes you think.
Yeah, so
she's special.
She is
she is special, and I think there's another thing I want to mention with her, and we've been talking about her very much in the scope of the hero's journey, and how she goes through her own hero's journey, like Anakin, like Luke, like Rey, like Ezra, like all of those characters. But of course, they're all different in various details. But I feel like this is a big step in her hero's journey, because other than that little pick-me-up from the batch at the end, she rescues herself on Bora Vio. Like, that's all her until they pick her up on the flight pod. She is the one who gets herself out of the grip of Cad Bane, out of the grip of Fennec Shand, gets Toto 360 off her, gets into the flight pod. That's all her. And she is quickly proving that she is as valuable, if not more valuable, of a member of the squad than Hunter and Crosshair and Wrecker and Tech. And Echo. Yeah, I'm like, which one am I missing?
Yeah. Crosshair just kind of decided they were gonna be here, he was gonna be,
further away.
Then I don't get why you left, because they were like, you don't treat me well. Says the man who always chews on a toothpick and cuts people down.
But that happens further in the episodes. Yeah.
But we will absolutely get there. Anything else from either of you for any of these 3 episodes before we go on to our In a Galaxy interview questions?
No.
No, when I looked at episode 8 and 9, to me they're like a 2-part episode. So absolutely. It was really well done. And Fennec Shand, like you said about Fennec Shand, no, they didn't just throw her in there just to say, hey, Fennec is here. She had to be a part of the story. It had to make sense in the storyline, and that was great to see her again. And it made sense that at the very beginning, she was hired by Nala Se to look for Omega, and she hired her again because she knew that she had to get Omega before Cad Bane did, because there were, depending on which bounty hunter found it first, Omega was going to have two different fates, So
Yeah.
I thought it was well done. I love the hand-to-hand combat with
Cad and Fennec.
Cad and Fennec, and the rocket boots. How he free falling and then going back up, and falling backwards back onto the facility. That was awesome. So yeah, wonderful animation.
Yeah, the animation of Bora Vio, the animation of Bracca in all of these episodes is just, Jacob and I have talked and waxed poetic so many times about season 7 and Bad Batch animation, but the amount of detail they've managed to develop on the software that they're using is just breathtaking.
Yeah.
And I quite love it. But moving on, we ask every guest on Star Wars in a Galaxy a set of 10 questions, and we'll ask both of you these questions. First one, question 1. Who is your favorite Star Wars character?
Ahsoka.
Okay.
A good answer.
Do you want an explanation or why?
Yeah, because I watched the Clone Wars when I was really young, and Ahsoka was just like the most relatable character. Also, I got to meet Ashley Eckstein in person at the Fan Expo
cool.
and Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. So did Jacob. Actually, Jacob got to take a picture with Ashley and Matt and
I got 3
and D, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah. For me, it would be Darth Vader, and it's always been Darth Vader, even before the prequel.
Of course,
the prequel trilogy. The prequel trilogy. I just loved his presence. I just loved that he was very intimidating. I loved the suit and the helmet. I loved that it was Vader's voiced by Darth Vader. Vader was voiced by James Earl Jones. So everything about Vader, I just loved him as a character.
You just love Vader, don't you?
And I also love the story arc, how he started off being evil and then went back to the light at the end of the Return of the Jedi, the original trilogy. Yeah.
This one's a bit more complicated one, and we've adjusted this question at many points because we know that some people aren't into like rankings and stuff. So, do either of you have a Star Wars movie ranking? If not, like a top 5 or top 3, is absolutely fine.
Yeah,
Keith is excited.
Do you have it already? Do you know? Okay, you have a ranking. I'm still working on mine, so go ahead, Keith.
First.
So you're going from first to last.
First to last.
Last to first.
Last to first.
The Last Jedi.
Okay.
Last Jedi is last.
Like,
okay.
I saw The Last Jedi and it didn't really make much sense to me. Like, I enjoyed getting to see it, but it wasn't the best Star Wars movie I've ever seen. And next is The Rise of Skywalker. I was able to see that for my birthday, and I'm like, I need to decompress. Let's get some Legos. And I did get some Legos, and they were all of The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You love to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I built them all, and I'm like, wow, I still don't get this movie. And I think next would be Attack of the Clones. Anakin just didn't really make much sense. Like, he was kind of yelling the entire movie.
Okay.
And he's like, Obi-Wan is doing this. He's holding me back. And I'm like, when did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
I can't rank Revenge of the Sith because I haven't actually seen that.
Yeah, you haven't seen the entire film. Okay.
I guess next is The Phantom Menace, not because I don't like it, but because I have to rank the other ones. And then it's Return of the Jedi. Love that movie. Empire Strikes Back, even better. A New Hope. The OG. Love it.
So we're just ranking the films, is that right?
Yeah.
Just the
Oh,
films,
you want
okay.
to rank the TV shows?
No. Just.
I was also gonna say, Keith. I don't know if you've seen Rogue One or Solo, but absolutely you can put those in too.
Oh yes.
Oh, that's right. Rogue One is Solo. Yeah, exactly.
Rogue One is like under Attack of the Clones, and Solo is after the Phantom Menace.
Okay.
I like Solo.
Okay. I don't have my ranking as of yet, but I can probably give you the top five. So let me see. So um, I grew up watching the original trilogy. I'm an original trilogy baby. You know,
Me too.
I was
Up
the
top.
pioneers. So those three films will always be top for me. So Empire. So I'll start from the top down. I'll do the top
Yeah.
five. So that'll be the. There we
Took you
go.
long enough.
All right. We're still doing the show here.
Yeah.
So The Empire Strikes Back is number one for me. Return of the Jedi number two. A New Hope number three. The Force Awakens number four.
Did I rank The Force Awakens?
Yeah, I think you left out The Force Awakens.
Oh,
Yeah, you
dang
might
it.
have. Yeah,
That's
that's okay. Where would that go?
right under Return of the Jedi.
So before or after Return of the Jedi?
And the fourth.
Okay, so then Force Awakens. Okay, not too bad. Not that much different than me. Yeah, so the top five: Empire, Return of the Jedi, A New Hope, The Force Awakens, and the fifth one would be Rogue One for me.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
It's not top five. No, definitely not top five. Yeah.
I don't know if we can be friends anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we sure.
There is what I've learned about like Star Wars fans movie rankings is, which like, if you think that there can be no person who has a specific ranking of Star Wars movies, I promise you there is.
Yeah.
One of the first Star Wars podcasts I listened to were the two hosts' favorite Star Wars movies were Attack of the Clones and Rogue One, which are my bottom two. And I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Mm-hmm.
But like, they seriously loved those movies, and I'm happy for them. It's so incredible to see. Like, I'm trying to think of a Star Wars movie I haven't seen as somebody's favorite. I don't think I've seen Solo as somebody's favorite, but I think I've seen every single other one of them as somebody's favorite.
I see your point. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure Solo exists out there too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there are a lot of Solo fans out there.
Oh, absolutely.
I bring back Solo too.
Or make Solo 2 happen.
Make Solo 2 happen. No, absolutely.
Yeah,
For your my third question is favorite non-movie Star Wars media that you think people are missing out on. So something other than movies that you think people
Resistance.
Good one.
I
love Star Wars Resistance.
Keith, you're speaking my language here.
Yeah.
I have been long praising, and I basically got Jacob to watch Resistance because he hadn't watched it before I kept publicly encouraging him on the show to watch it. And everybody who's listening to this, watch Resistance. It's nowhere as bad as people say it is. I know that show gets a lot of hate and it's undeserved. So
shouldn't. I love it. Like, why? Nobody forced you to watch it.
There we go. Good point.
Yeah.
Kerwin, go ahead.
Yes, I understand, not that ratings matter, but Andor is not doing very well for a Star Wars series,
which is amazing.
And I think people are
anticipating it. So
yeah, well, I think people are missing out because they're expecting it to be one thing and it's not. They're looking for action, but I am loving Andor, and I'm just learning so much from these episodes every week. The dialogue is just top of the line. The acting is the best acting I've ever seen in Star Wars. So I think people are missing out on Andor.
Diego Luna is doing great.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an all-star.
Diego Luna is fantastic. There's so many great acting moments in the show. I think that everything Stellan Skarsgård does in the show is perfect.
Especially the way he pronounces Cassian Andor.
Oh, absolutely. No,
Cassian Andor.
I tweeted out a few days ago. Where is it? The biggest crime of Andor so far has been that Luthen Rail hasn't asked Cassian Andor what his Cassian Plunder is. I could not get that out of my head.
It's heard that before. Yeah.
I love Stellan Skarsgård dearly. I love Genevieve O'Reilly is killing it.
Absolutely.
Genevieve is killing it. I'm trying to think of who else. I think her name is Faye Marseille, the woman who plays Vel, is also
Yes.
killing it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's full of those just fascinating characters that you cannot wait to see how their stories unfold. I agree about Andor.
Absolutely.
Okay, fourth question is this is a classic one. Reveals a lot about people, I feel like. Which Star Wars background character is your favorite?
You define background character?
Background character is like they don't have a major plot defining moment in the movie or show or whatever it is. They don't speak more than a few lines of dialogue.
Yeah. They're not a primary character. There might be a secondary or tertiary character.
I don't have one.
Yeah. Every time I hear that question, the first person that comes to mind, no, not Greedo. Interesting. No. It would be Wedge.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Wedge Antilles.
Thank goodness he's still alive.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I mean, Wedge has been able to survive all three of the original trilogy shows.
He helped survive Luke.
Well, that's true, right? Because he shows up in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
And he's still Wedge, you know what I mean? And I also think the book is called Resistance Reborn.
Yeah.
And it was I love that book. It was Rebecca Roanhorse, wonderful book, and he plays a major role in that book, and I just love that character. So I've always been a fan of Wedge because he just survived
all three battles.
He fought in all three battles and survived all three battles. So like, Wedge for me.
Porkins became pork chops.
Poor Porkins. I haven't read every single Star Wars book, but I have read Resistance Reborn, and it's fantastic. I love that book.
It is.
And yeah, it is. That is a weird. That book is so interesting because it is like all of I heard somebody describe it as like the culmination of the new canon, and it's like every new canon character from beyond the films. Like there's Zay Versio from Battlefront in there, and there's Yendor from Bloodline in there, and
Snap Wexley.
Like all of the expanded characters are there. Mm-hmm. It's a fascinating book.
Yes.
Fifth question: what in your opinion is the coolest Star Wars species?
Human
species. Okay.
I don't know.
Is that your answer? No. Okay. The coolest. I've never been asked that question before.
Yodas. The Yodas are
even though we don't know what that species is, but
everybody
that's
just
cool.
calls them the Yodas. Baby Yoda and Yoda and Yaddle, they're all awesome. Like Baby Yoda, just everybody loves Baby Yoda. In fact, I just got a flu shot.
Yeah.
Baby Yoda.
There he is.
Yeah.
Look at that guy.
Yeah.
Look at that guy.
He didn't get his cookie today. He's kind of sad.
He didn't get his macaron today.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I would say I love Chewbacca, so I would say the Wookiees. You know, Black Chrysanthemum is cool. I like how they came together in Revenge of the Sith to fight the clones. So I would say the Wookiees for me, coolest species.
Fantastic. My next question for both of you: what's your favorite Star Wars planet?
Hoth.
No. Endor.
That would be my second.
You love it. You love Endor.
Yeah,
like
that's my second favorite.
It just reminds me of the Minecraft jungle biome so much, which is my favorite biome. But like, I absolutely love the jungles of Endor. They're just so lush. And then the tree houses, I love those.
Yeah.
Bright Tree Village, can't be beat. If you were in the Star Wars universe, what do you think your job would be?
I think I'd be up there with the rebels with a lightsaber in my hand. 2 lightsabers, in fact, because I dual wield a lot. But, that would just be awesome to be fighting right next to Luke, just like, yeah.
I see that. Yeah, I do see that. I don't want to be on Tatooine. It's too hot.
Yeah, I'm also not fighting you, so don't go to the dark side, Dad.
I want to get on a speeder bike.
Yeah.
So whatever I need to do to just get my own speeder bike,
and I speeder bike rebel.
I maybe I'll be a rebel on the ground. So I'll be working.
On the special forces.
Yeah, on special forces. As long as I get my own speeder bike, I love speeder bikes. So,
Mom, what about you?
Yeah, yeah, that's our answer.
Millennium Falcon.
Mom wants to be a Millennium Falcon.
Okay.
I mean, that's a good answer. Three questions questions left.
Our producer just wants to be a passenger on the Millennium Falcon.
That's totally cool.
We tried to fly the Millennium Falcon. We crashed so Disneyland. Badly. Chewbacca was yelling at us. We got kicked off the ship. And Dad, you were terrible. I don't know what you were doing, but you were posing for animal crackers. Yeah, and I'm like, fire the weapons.
Okay. We're talking about Disneyland.
Yeah, and here I am I'm trying to pull the ship up, and I'm just like,
I've only
okay. All right.
I've only been to land once since Galaxy's Edge came out, and I was unfortunately the engineer. And I wish I could have been either the pilot or the gunner, because I just felt like, even though the engineer was fun, a lot more fun than I thought it was gonna be, at the end of the day it was, hey, this button's gonna light up, press it. 3 seconds later, hey, this button's gonna light up, press it. It was really just pressing buttons. It didn't feel like you were like you were doing things, but you didn't feel like you were doing things.
Right. Yeah.
But
Archie on board with this.
Yeah, I was so amazed. I had no idea what was going on. I was just in awe. Keith is giving me orders, and I'm just looking around wow, this is great.
Absolutely.
Fly the ship, you don't get paid.
3 questions left. First one is, there's this quote from Lucas. I'm not sure if either of you are familiar with it, but we love this quote around here. It's from the documentary from making the Phantom Menace. I keep saying Phantom Menace, and anyway, I need to get that out of my head. The Phantom Menace. And it is that quote, as I like to say, it's about poetry. It's like poetry, it rhymes. Every stanza, rhymes with the last. Hopefully it'll work. What's your favorite poetry it rhymes in Star Wars?
Yeah, well, let me say this. So back to the original trilogy, I find that part of what I love so much about Anakin's return back to the light is that he never got the opportunity to save his mother. He wanted to, and he couldn't.
Yeah, which is kind of what drew him to the dark side.
Right. He didn't get the opportunity to save his wife, Padme, which he thought he could, and he could not. Right. But he had the opportunity to save his son. And I think to me, I feel that, okay, well, because he was not able to save his mother, he's not able to save his wife, Padme, that he wasn't going to miss the opportunity to save his son, and that's what he did. So to me, that speaks volumes.
Yeah, no, I that it's sometimes those simple saving the family from not being able to save the family. It's sometimes those simple things that are the most beautiful.
Yeah,
I find. Yeah. If you could take one item or force power from Star Wars into the real world, what would it be?
Mind reading. It just makes my life so much easier. I just hate trying to guess what people think. It would be so much easier to just read people's thoughts and be like, oh, wow, I didn't know you like chocolate chip ice cream or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I don't even know if I should say this.
What?
Force choke.
Oh, hey, wow.
So that you can go Homer Simpson on people.
Hey, you know what? Yeah, just some people, just keep talking and talking and talking.
Some people deserve it. Some people deserve it.
Right. Yeah. You know what I mean? Okay, well, or people, maybe saying something to you that you don't agree with, and
you're just sick and tired of it.
Calm down. This needs to end right now.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's my turn to talk.
Yeah. Just be like, all right.
You don't have to act like Vader all the time and choke somebody to death. You can just
No. That doesn't have to go that far. No, just for a few seconds.
Yeah, you can be It's like, all right, you've had your turn. It's my turn to speak. Let me finish the sentence in here.
A little bit of direct to Krennic,
Yeah,
there you go. Just stop him.
As I was saying,
in the tracks.
yeah.
Or lift the man on the table and make him dance in front of the entire board.
Oh boy. Okay.
And then finally,
yes,
we have a bit of a feud going on with fellow podcaster DeVore from A Large View of the Force over a Star Wars pronunciation. We ask all of our guests how they pronounce this name, and I'm not saying there's a correct answer. I'm just saying that there is a correct answer. I'm gonna show you a character, and you just tell me how you pronounce this character's name.
Sure.
You know who this character is?
Oh, okay. All right.
Sure.
It's Zam Wessel.
Okay.
Is that the right pronunciation?
Yeah, it is. It's the right pronunciation. Yeah, Zam Wessel is right. So DeVore, this was a while ago, we were talking with him about this, and he was like, "Oh, I always pronounced it Zam Wessel."
Oh.
And we were like, "Who is doing that?" And then we went to, interestingly enough, the game Star Wars Bounty Hunter, which is an old Legends game, released around the time of Clones. And in that, Leanna Walsman, who plays Zam in both Clones and in Bounty Hunter, introduces herself as, "Hi, I'm the Zam Wessel." But to make it more complicated, Wikipedia has both Wessel and Wessel as acceptable pronunciations. So there is no actual pronunciation, but
it's Wessel.
Yeah, we are keeping it existing.
That force-freaking power might come in handy.
Literally, I will tell you that we've had dozens of guests come on. 2 or 3 of them have said Wessel. All of the rest have said Wessel. So at this point, we've gotten so many sources that we just kind of have to assume that it's Wessel, but we have to keep the bit going.
Yeah. It's just so many names like that has multiple pronunciations.
You're gonna do this in 2049.
Apparently, yeah. If it keeps continuing on to then, we're gonna keep doing it. As long as this show, we're gonna keep asking people about Wessel versus Wessel. We've just decided. But yeah, I think that's gonna be it for this episode. Before we leave, Kerwin and Keith, do you wanna tell us where you can find all your stuff?
Do you have any speedrun music?
Any what?
Speedrun music.
Go ahead, Keith. We don't. That's okay, Eli. Don't worry about it.
All right.
I don't think I have that yet, but
speak through it, Keith. Just tell.
But I enjoy doing it.
Okay. All right.
So you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Radio Public, Amazon Music, Audible, Podcast Addict, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And those are all at Fallacy Galaxy. That's our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram handle. Visit our website, FallacyGalaxy.com. Please donate to our Patreon page so we can keep making awesome content on our channel and new shorts as well. And also check out our Spreaker page as well. I did it.
That's it.
It's one of those things where after a certain number of episodes, you just have it in your brain.
Yes.
Those things. And absolutely. Thanks everyone for listening to this episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. Thanks Kerwin and Keith for coming on. Next week, Jacob and I are going to do a special episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy. We have not figured out what that is yet, but by the time we record it and post it, we will. So stay tuned for that, whatever it will be, and then we'll get back to Bad Batch, apparently. So in the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter at InAGalaxyPod, Instagram at Star Wars in a Galaxy. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you listen to your podcasts, we will be there. If we're not, email us, swinagalaxy@gmail.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our trivia account, which is our Star Wars Trivia League account at InAGalaxy Trivia, Epic Confrontations on YouTube. You can follow my personal account at OchiFan327 on both Twitter, and I now have TikTok, so I'm trying out that new platform as well. And I think if there's nothing else in the meantime, may the Force be with you.
Always.
Always.